In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the upcoming pattern, just diving into things. We still have the remnants of Hurricane Ian as well. Devastating major hurricane for Florida, unfortunately. We need to talk about all of these things. Here we are taking a look at the current radar imagery. We do see Hurricane Ian down here. I saw this black from our live stream yesterday. If you did make it to our stream, thank you for tuning in. It was a little bit shorter than I anticipated. I was not feeling too well. But I'm back here this morning for our normal video, and we do have the remnants here off the southeast coast, or really on shore of the east coast of Florida there. We do have some storminess along kind of the Rockies here and some of the other states in the western United States that we need to talk about. We'll talk about these areas first, actually, and we see this storminess heading northward. This is some light to moderate precipitation, so we see some yellows, we see some greens. Mostly just showers passing through. Very, very isolated the further south you head, and much lighter. We see lighter greens, and it's very spotty, so there is just some sprinkles passing by. That's kind of what I would call it. And then we have some little bit of heavier pockets down here from southern Arizona, but it is definitely for very exclusive regions there. We also see here in the upper Midwest and kind of the northern plains as well, we have just some sporadic light showers up here as well for states like North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, Nebraska. All of these areas just have some spotty storminess going on, very, very light storminess. Now, obviously, we have Hurricane Ian here. There is some showers kind of being thrown off of this storm well to the north, and this is going to enter into the Carolinas and Virginia later on, but let's zoom into the heart of the storm. This is the most important area to talk about right now. We do have very heavy banding being thrown on to areas like Jacksonville, areas down the coast south of Jacksonville, all the way to Orlando as well, where we have flood warnings coming through for multiple different spots. So definitely some different regions seeing this kind of eye wall that is still around. Especially Daytona Beach seems to be really being bombarded by this right now. Then Deltona, and then down through Orlando, we have just tons and tons of major flooding happening here. You see the words coming through with the flood warnings, considerable catastrophic flooding happening in there, apparently, according to these warnings. So very, very bad flooding happening with these heavier bands that are being thrown on shore. And also, I'm sure the wind is very major at this point as well, as this tropical storm is still impacting these regions with major impacts, unfortunately. And if I was to turn the track on, what I'll do is do this. We can see where the hurricane is, or tropical storm, it's post-hurricane, but we see where this tropical storm is still expected to head. They're north of Savannah there into South Carolina. Savannah will get really bad impacts, but also Charleston here, you'll be just north of where that storm will come on shore. And then we can see that it's going to head up into this kind of Smoky and Appalachian Mountains there, bringing tons and tons of precipitation to these regions up here. And we're going to talk about that in the model guidance in just a little bit. So what we're going to do is move on, talk about the model guidance, and also just talk about the upcoming pattern in general. All right, now here we are taking a look at the upcoming pattern. Let's just take a look at where this storm heads. We can see it is going to do some sort of curve like this and then back into South Carolina, where this is going to cause a lot of rainfall to happen for a lot of the southeast, basically this region here. The storm has already been a heavier precipitation tropical system, I would say, where it has more rainfall than the average system of its caliber at most times. There's been a lot of flooding, considerable amount of flooding compared to what normal tropical systems have with this system. So these areas all up here, everywhere that's going to be getting rainfall from the system needs to pay attention, because it looks like there's going to be more than anticipated potentially. This is going to cause storminess starting Thursday afternoon. Here we are taking a look this afternoon. By the time we reach tomorrow afternoon, Friday, we're going to get probably the heaviest of the precipitation for a lot of these states at this point, this area here. And then for Saturday afternoon and evening time, this is the look here. We see plenty of rainfall happening for these areas as well. We also see that there's a storm out west bringing a pretty considerable amount of snowfall out there, which is pretty interesting. By the time we reach Sunday afternoon the 2nd, we can see the remnants here, the last little bits of rainfall happening over the mid-Atlantic and portions of the southeast. We still have storminess over the Rockies here taking place. By the time we reach Monday the 3rd, we still have precipitation here over the southeast and mid-Atlantic. We Also still have some storminess happening for the Rockies. Here's Tuesday the 4th. We could see a little bit of a very weak nor'easter tries to develop here, bringing some precipitation potentially for these areas, but it's not really doing much there. We can see the storminess in the Rockies. What was in the Rockies is now kind of tilted eastward here. And then by the time we reach Wednesday, we could see there's obviously a major cold front and Arctic blast coming through here. So for the Four Corner states, we could see that they're still seeing a little bit of precipitation. We can clearly see there's a big ridge out west and a big trough that's trying to develop in the east, where there's this strong low here, 993, with a cold front stretching down like this. Cold air is shoving its way down, and we're going to see an Arctic blast come through for the first time in about maybe a week. By this point, Wednesday the 5th, that really forces its way in, bringing some mixed precipitation here for the interior northeast. Very interesting there, with a very considerable amount of cold. Definitely some snow showers I'm seeing for a lot of these spots potentially, so it's going to have to be watched. That's October 6th through 7th time frame. And then we get another one that's trying to roll through here at the end of the model run with another strong low, another 994 low, and then we see another cold front trying to develop. So a pretty interesting pattern we find ourselves in. Let's take a look here at the total precipitation. And there's obviously going to be a lot for the southeast here. Anywhere in the whites, we're expecting practically no precipitation. Your grays will be 1/10 of an inch or less of precipitation. Your greens will be 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Your blues will be 1/2 an inch to an inch. Your yellows will be 1 inch to 2 inches. Your reds will be 2 to 5 inches. And then your browns will be 5 to 10 inches of precipitation. So we see that obviously a majority of this is happening because of the tropical system. And outside of that, it would have been a very quiet 10-day period here that we're taking a look at if it wasn't for that tropical system. This is going to bring a lot of rainfall. And I know there's a ton of bad news that is coming with this system. But if there is anything good to take away from it, it's the rainfall in these areas, particularly where I can say for one in Virginia, it has been extremely dry. I have a body of water in my backyard, and it has been just receded down to like probably the lowest I've ever seen it. And I'm hoping this rainfall is going to help the grass and that water. So that is the only good thing to take away, is these areas that are kind of more drought stricken will get some rainfall from this. But obviously for Florida, the southeast here, I think it's only bad news really to take away from this. This storm has been extraordinarily bad, and I know I alluded to the fact that I thought Category 4 was likely at landfall, Category 5 was possible before really anybody was saying that, but I think I would even say that the storm ended up being worse than even I thought that it would. Although I always keep an open mind and allude to any facts or any possibilities really that could happen with the storm. I always make it clear any possibilities. That's always been my motto, and that way, there's nothing unexpected happening. But I do just think that this is probably one of the worst storms that I've ever witnessed, and I'm very worried about the news that's going to come out of there eventually. So we're just going to have to wait and see with that. I just wanted to say that real quickly. For total snowfall here through the next 10 days, so through October 9th here, if you're anywhere in the grays, we're expecting a dusting, if anything. We see some of that going on for the White Mountains up there in New Hampshire, some for Vermont and New York as well. Also some for northern Minnesota, so those northern woods up there getting some of that precipitation, or the snowfall better yet. And then here for the Rockies, we can see in the grays a dusting, if anything. The blues will be 2 to 6 inches of snowfall. Your purples will be 6 to 10. Then we even have some pinks showing up, especially for Colorado there, but also Utah and Wyoming seeing some of that. Those are the areas where we're seeing 10 to 20 inches of snowfall. So it's safe to say that by the time we're reaching October 10th, or really just that second and third week of October, it's very safe to say that we're going to have a lot of snow-capped mountains. And that snowfall week after week is just going to start getting lower and lower in elevation. It's just a very interesting time of year. Now, for the upcoming temperature pattern, we're obviously in a very deep trough right now. Very strong Arctic blast that has rolled through and lasted quite a while. And it is going to continue to last quite a while. As we reach Sunday, October 2nd, we still have the cooler air in place. But that second Arctic blast kind of meets up with it. We watched it move down just a minute ago, and really we see that by October 4th, it's a full-on second Arctic blast. Not as strong this time around, but we can see this air mass up here on Friday the 30th, then Saturday the 1st, then Sunday the 2nd, and then by the 3rd, you can see they're kind of combined here. And we have just a cold air mass in the east. And still, this very strong positive PNA out west that is forcing this cold air to move around that air mass and into the east. We've talked about this all year. This has been a pretty common occurrence, and we're still seeing it. Now, by the 5th, we see the second one is winding down, but we have a third one on the way, third Arctic blast coming through. And by the 6th here, we can see very cold temperatures, probably a high precipitation cold front here rolling through. And then by Friday, it fully sets into the east here. The greens will be 10 to 15 degrees below normal here. So all of these green areas very far below normal and a very strong Arctic blast. And we see a fourth one coming through already here by Sunday the 9th. And this is the end of the model run, but we see Arctic blast after Arctic blast after Arctic blast here. Just a very, very intense cold pattern we're going to find ourselves in the east. And this is kind of what we've been alluding to for months being possible, and it really, really has panned out here. Just really a ton of Arctic blasts have rolled through for this early fall season. It's been really interesting to see. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on. And we're going to take a look at the 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook, and then we're going to take a look at the cone forecast for Tropical Depression 11 and Tropical Storm Ian. Now, here's the 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook. Obviously, I just said it. We have Tropical Depression 11 out here, and we have Tropical Storm Ian. There's no areas of potential development at this point, so we're just going to move on to those cone forecasts. Now here's Tropical Depression 11. As you can see, it's expected to just innocently fizzle out, really. There is no land anywhere nearby. This storm might impact some ships or something. I don't know. They probably will try to go around it, but for the most part, this storm is going to be a non-event and really a non-factor. If it doesn't even develop into a named storm, it'll probably just be forgotten permanently. Now let's take a look at Tropical Storm Ian. And here we are taking a look at it. As you can see, we still have tropical storm warnings along the west and east coast of Florida. And then up and down the southeast coast all the way up to midway up North Carolina there. We can see that this storm, according to the cone forecast, could make impact as far south as Savannah and as far north as a little bit north of Charleston, South Carolina there. But for the most part, we expect that southern part of South Carolina to get the direct impact. And it could get a little bit more intense. The storm could intensify a little bit over the next, let's call it 24 hours or so that it'll be over water again. It'll probably drop by 2 to 5 millibars, I would say, potentially in intensity before hitting South Carolina. Those waters are a little bit warm out there with the Gulf Stream and all, so this has some chance for a little bit of development, but nothing too crazy, and it shouldn't make too much of a difference. But this storm will hit South Carolina as a tropical storm likely, head inland, head towards the Smoky Mountains, and then drop down to depression level. This will still have the rainfall with it, and flooding will still be a major concern. But as far as the wind and the storm surge, that should be a little bit receded by the time this storm is all said and done. Thank you guys so much for watching. Tune in with us every single day as we'll just go over the weather pattern as we have for the past, I think, 4, almost 5 years now. I can't believe it's been this long we've been doing this. But every single day we make these weather updates, and if you subscribe, you will get them every single day. So be sure to stay tuned with us as we get more information on all of these things. Also, like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts. I'll see you guys in the next video.